As anyone can readily and quickly attest, setting up and integrating new technologies, particularly those in the front-end space, can sometimes be an incredible struggle and really quite challenging. However, I'm happy to report that setting up style components could not be easier to get set up, even with an existing application structure and build tooling. So let's get started by setting up style components. Style components is distributed with the NPM registry, as are many other packages in the modern web toolkit. Libraries like React, Lodash, D3, etc. are installed in the very same way that style components is installed. So to install, we simply need to run npm install styled-components --save. And this command will do a few things. So first, it updates package.json. Package.json is the source of truth for your application's dependencies and dev dependencies. So basically what it allows for is that someone down the road can run npm install, and it'll take this package.json as the source of truth and install all of the application's necessary dependencies, including, of course, styled components. Here we're using version 3.0.0, but effectively version 1 or 2 of style components will work just as well. Next, npm will install the dependency style components into the node modules folder with the version that you specified. So when you write import styled from styled components, it's referring to this path, which is actually this JavaScript file. So you're basically pulling in all the library's functionality via this node modules path. With that background made apparent, we can now begin developing utilizing styled components. To begin, I'll be using a tool called Code Sandbox. Code Sandbox is an online interactive development environment which will let us write our React and style components code without setting up any of that aforementioned build tooling. Certainly, you can go through the process of setting that up, and the lessons provided in some of these units can be used in Code Sandbox or from your local machine. Either works. But in the interest of getting developing quickly, something like Code Sandbox works really well. Let's get started. So this is Code Sandbox, and what we'll be doing is taking an existing application style as CSS and migrating it over to encapsulated styles using styled components. So what we see here, particularly in this file structure on the left, is the default boilerplate generated with a tool called Create React App. What we're going to be doing is taking any existing CSS and ripping it out and replacing it with styled components. So by convention, Create React App renders your application's source files into this directory called source. So let's take a look at the two files we'll be editing as we rip out the CSS and replace with styled components. So this is app.js. App.js is a React component utilizing a traditional CSS approach. It has a number of HTML elements referring to class name. These class names are inherited from this app.css as selectors. So if we look at app.css, we see it has a number of CSS selectors. It's targeting the class name of app, app logo, app header, etc. So when we go back, we can see class name of app header, so on and so forth. So with that introductory information out of the way, let's get started. Code Sandbox works similarly to installing packages as in a local file system with Node or NPM, but it can be a bit more user-friendly. So to import a package, we use an import statement. So import styled from styled components, and we'll see an error. Could not find dependency styled components. So let's resolve this by clicking this button. This Code Sandbox will reload, and we'll see our application now works. So what's happened here is that Code Sandbox has updated our package.json for us, just like if we were to run npm install style-components. So we can see here our dependencies have been updated with styled components. We're using version 3.2.6 in this particular example. So now let's actually use this style components dependency. Piece by piece, we want to migrate every class name, which refers to a CSS selector, into a styled component, thereby replacing our CSS with styled React components. So by convention, a wrapper element, or in other words, a parent element, is called a container. So this div class name of app is a container for everything inside of this app component. So we're going to create our first style component. We're going to call it a container. It is of type div, an HTML element of div, just because that's what it is here. We're going to use ES2015 template literals or backticks, and then anything inside of these backticks is valid CSS. So we can actually go into our app.css. We can see our .app, which is the element we're replacing, has text align of center. We can paste this back in, and then we can replace our div class name of app with our styled component that is named container. And we can see it works. So one component down, several more to go. And the easiest way to continue this process is to just descend down this component tree. So our next element is of type header, an HTML element header. Let's type const capital H header equals style.header. And so why we're capitalizing is we're using a React convention. And the convention is that a React element is capitalized, so it's easy to tell at a glance what's a React component and what's standard HTML. So we can use this React component already by replacing, and we'll see it works. But of course, it's not styled because we haven't copied over our style. So let's go back. Let's take this app header. We'll copy this CSS, paste it into our styled header, and it works just like we'd expect. So you'll note that I've left a few elements, this image, this H1, and this P, this paragraph tag, undone. I've left these as an exercise to the listener to become more familiar with Style Components API, and also to become more familiar with Code Sandbox. So by the end of this, there won't be any non-styled elements, and you'll have migrated the CSS over to styled components. Best of luck!